This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Whether you need a domain, website, or online store, make it with Squarespace. Hey, it's Chris. Shout out to all the technicians watching this all over the world. I've seen the stats, and this is truly a worldwide community. So, hello from Australia to Afghanistan to Canada to the UK and all points in between. Today, we're going to be talking about Apple and subscriptions. In the last video where I just answered some of your questions, you guys said it kind of felt like talking to a friend, which is great because that's kind of the goal. And you also said that you sort of liked this conversational, almost podcast-like style, which is cool. I kind of envision this format just being like us hanging out. Earlier in the day, I asked you on all the different social platforms what you guys thought about Apple and subscriptions, both Apple's subscriptions and just the subscriptions that you can sign up for from the app ecosystem, let's say. And you guys had a lot to say. So I want to respond both to your comments and your questions and kind of throw in my thoughts as we go. Before we even get into it though, should we just start with how to cancel your subscriptions, how to check on them and see like, do you really need to be paying for this stuff? It's super easy. Apple recently updated it. So instead of going into your settings app now on your iPhone, just go into the App Store and click on your profile picture or non-picture, placeholder picture up in the top right, and you'll see something right there that says manage my subscriptions. And from there, you can see what all you're signed up for and what you might want to cancel. You guys want to know what my subscriptions are right now? I'll look them up. Okay, right now I'm subscribed to Drafts, the Notes app, because I love it. I'm subscribed to Bear. I'm subscribed to Apple News. I'm still making up my mind. Maybe we should talk about that. I'm subscribed to Numerics. I'm subscribed to 1Password. And I'm subscribed to Hulu Plus. And if I scroll down, I've got a ton of expired subscriptions, stuff that I just tried out and decided just wasn't worth it. Pigment, the adult coloring book, I tried it out. Let's get right into what you guys said. Christo something or other, I'm not even gonna try to pronounce it, says, all the really good apps seem to be a subscription, and while it's nice to have all the extra features or have access to the app, I am kind of tired of being nickel and dimed to death. So there you go. Right off the bat, you can see that subscription overload that's hitting people. Subscription fatigue, as all the news outlets seem to be calling it. I mean, this is very understandable. Just in the streaming media segment, you've got Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, Disney's coming, Apple's coming. That's 5 things right there. Is the average person gonna subscribe to 5 different streaming services? I'm thinking, no way. But this idea that all the best apps seem to have a subscription associated with them now, I have kind of felt that way too myself. Like when it comes to password managers, I have 1Password and it's a subscription. And I'm happy to pay it because I feel like it's the best fit for me with the family plan. Then there's Adobe with their Creative Cloud subscription, and that thing's pretty expensive, right? Monthly? That's like the top tier creative platform. And it's a subscription. Lori Gill, aka Appaholic, who you should follow on Twitter if you're not already, for lots of great Apple insights, says, I'm not sick of subscriptions. They've always existed. Newspaper, magazine, book of the month club. Love being able to digest more things I love for one price. So bundles. Right now, subs worth money include Apple Music, Apple News Plus, 1Password, Audible, Amazon Prime, Stitcher, Shudder, Netflix, Criterion. I really appreciate Lori's perspective right here because she's saying it's not all bad. In fact, it can be good when you bundle things together. And yeah, we have always had some sort of subscription, right? It's just that now so many more companies are wanting to get into subscriptions for that MRR, that monthly recurring revenue. Now let's talk about that idea of bundling, getting a bunch of stuff for maybe a lower price than everything individually. What if, and this is probably fairly likely if you ask me, Apple started bundling all these new services that it's announced, plus its old services. Macworld actually put some thought into what that Apple Prime bundle could look like. They're thinking maybe Apple Plus basic bundle for $30 a month might include Apple Music, Apple TV Plus, Apple News Plus, Apple Arcade, family sharing of everything, and then some iCloud storage. $30 a month for all that stuff. I mean, I'm already paying Apple $10 a month for storage because I got the 2 terabyte tier. I'm paying $9.99 trying out Apple News, and I'm paying for Apple Music. Like, I'm basically there anyways. If they came out with a $30 thing that also gave me their games and TV, I would be there already. I would sign up immediately. But what about you guys? The Apple Prime bundle, is that something that you would sign up for? Let me know down in the comments. Really curious about this. Dimitri says it's definitely oversaturated right now, and it's extremely easy to overdo it and end up with a hefty overall monthly bill without even noticing it. The good part is that most of them are cancel anytime, so we just have to get our stuff together and organize. Now here's a really good point. If you forget about all the stuff that you're signed up for, and it doesn't all come out like on the first of the month, it comes out like whatever day you subscribed on, and maybe it's not even monthly, maybe it's every 6 months, for instance, or 3 months, or 12 months, then it can be hard to track all this stuff, right? And so there is that danger that you're gonna forget about it. And this is what the companies want, by the way. I've been there before in some of my old businesses offering subscriptions. It's like, hey, if I make this price low enough, then people really aren't going to care. They're not going to miss that $2, whether they really are getting a whole lot out of whatever you're offering or not, right? That's what the companies are hoping. There are a couple decent subscription tracking apps where you can put in all your subscriptions and it'll kind of alert you like, hey, this payment's coming out in a few days, or hey, do you really need this? You don't use it all that often. I'm gonna link up a couple of those down below so you guys can check it out. Talking about subscriptions, Will says he's pretty sick of them and that he would rather pay a certain amount outright rather than continuously paying as long as you're using an app. I think I'm mostly with Will right here. For the most part, I would rather pay one time and not have to mess with it anymore. Just be done with it, even if it's a little more expensive. Now I say most of the time because there are times when I think renting is worth it. And by the way, that's exactly what we're talking about here. We're living in a world where we're renting everything. And the second you stop paying, it's all gone. Whether it's your music or your movies and videos, the second you stop paying that subscription, you don't own it, so you don't have it anymore. The other thing that's interesting is once you get really hooked into something, the company can come along and raise prices on you. And what are you gonna do? You're hooked on it. So are you gonna keep paying? Netflix has just done this very recently. In Will's comment, he also mentioned Bear, the Notes app. And if you're paying attention earlier, that's one of the ones that I'm subscribed to right now. Now the thing is, that's fairly reasonable. It's $1.49 a month. I would rather just pay for it and be done with it. But $1.49 for something that I actually get a lot of use out of right now, that's not too bad. Jade says he currently has 4 subscriptions that are all must-haves. Some storage on iCloud, Apple Music, the family plan, Netflix, and Xbox Game Pass. Xbox Game Pass, can't blame you there, but that's one thing to think about though. Like, what do you need and what don't you need in this whole subscription debate? Because some things like are a necessity. Storage, I saw so many comments, I didn't even get to include them all here, about people talking about storage. That seems like something that you need. Anyways, storage, necessary. And for a lot of people, I think some form of entertainment probably feels necessary. It's been a long day at the office, you wanna come and relax, right? Or school was crazy, you wanna do something to take your mind off it, relax, go hop into another world for half an hour or an hour. But at some point, everybody's gonna reach a subscription ceiling. There's gonna be some point where their budget isn't gonna support too many subscriptions. There's so many subscriptions, you can't possibly have it all in most cases. So you're gonna be missing out on something. And that means people are gonna have to make choices, and they're already doing it right now because there's so many subscriptions floating around. If you're gonna get some new service, you may have to cancel one of your other services. Now, the LA Times had something interesting to say about the future of all the media subscriptions. The author says, I imagine that instead of 3 or 4 big TV networks, we'll end up with 3 or 4 big streaming services, and content that's now in niche services will be absorbed by the industry leaders or disappear. This actually sounds pretty logical to me. There's all these little streaming services popping up, and eventually the bigger ones are going to gobble them up, kind of like the whale eating the shark who ate the guppy that ate the minnow or whatever. But that's going to take a while to play out. And then are we just back to the cable behemoth type situation that we have in the past decade? Fluffy Fox says, I was sick of subscriptions the minute they started introducing them. Not just Apple, but developers. There's only one app that I pay subs for, and that's 1Password. But only because there's no once-off option. Yeah, that's one frustration that I run into several times. No one-off option. There is no option to just pay one time. You have to subscribe. And that is where, like the comment a little while back, you feel like you're getting nickeled and dimed. I think right there is one of the most annoying things. I mean, it's different when you're subscribing to Spotify or Apple Music or Netflix because you're getting a huge, vast catalog of maybe all the music that almost exists or a ton of videos. It's not just one thing. But when it's just for one thing, that's what's annoying. Jake says, I have nothing against subscriptions, just that it seems like Apple's bringing out some just for the sake of it. I think a lot of people feel like this when it comes to Apple News. Like Apple just did it to do it, to have something else, maybe to help them grow as some of the hardware stuff slows down. And I'm not saying that that's accurate, but I am saying I do think a lot of people maybe feel that. Here's a comment that goes right into this. Utsav says, Apple News Plus is the first Apple thing that I've rejected in a very long time. After trying it out for about 2 to 3 weeks, I've canceled my trial. The selection of content that's actually compatible with their purpose-built publishing platform and that I'm interested in pales when compared to the content that's solely available in PDF form. The lack of actual news sources is also sad. Maybe in a year or two they'll have it sorted, or maybe this will be another ping. I'm not spending $10 a month to find out. There you go. That probably sums up how a lot of people feel about Apple News Plus right now, even better than I could, so I'm just gonna leave it at that and head on to the next thing. Gabby says, I'm paying for 50 gigs of cloud for approximately $1 per month. I've maxed it out, 64 gig iPhone, and honestly, even though it's really cheap and affordable, I feel like it's a trap to pay more for storage. It has saved me one time though, when my phone had to get reset. Yeah, I think this drip storage that Apple has put in place is sort of probably intended to have you upgrade over time. I mean, that's just kind of obvious. You're gonna take more pictures as you go through the years. You're gonna run out of storage because you wanna hang on to those, and you're gonna need more. Where you're gonna get it from Apple is gonna cost you, and that's just the way the game's played. CNET had an interesting article talking about subscriptions and fatigue, and they mentioned subscription anxiety. There's going to develop, with all these different streaming platforms that are coming out all the time, whether Apple or not, there's gonna be a sense of FOMO, like a fear of missing out. And that's what gets a lot of people to sign up in the first place. Like with Netflix, if you don't have Netflix, think of the cultural behemoth that Netflix is. You go into work or school and people are talking about Black Mirror or whatever the show is. You don't have it, then you're missing out. And if you can't afford like 10 different subscriptions in the next 15 years or whatever to stay culturally connected, then yeah, FOMO. Now we've been talking about this idea of subscription fatigue, subscription overload, too many subscriptions. But in contrast, right now and for the last decade, we've been dealing with advertising overload. And everywhere you go, things were paid for by free ads. And subscriptions are sort of like the opposite of that. If you pay a subscription, you're probably not gonna get advertised to. You guys let me know down in the comments. Advertising overload or subscription fatigue? Which one is worse? Now, subscription fatigue is real. If you don't want to suffer from hosting fatigue when you're building your next website, then check out today's sponsor, Squarespace. I've been a Squarespace user for a long time, so it was a no-brainer when they approached me and said, can we sponsor some content on the channel? Both Daily Tech and MySlicedApple.com are on Squarespace. One thing I like about it are the designer templates. You need a site that looks great first and foremost, and with Squarespace, you're gonna get it. There's no design skills required, and of course you can tweak it and really dial it in just how you want. I also love the low maintenance approach since it's an all-in-one platform. There's no plugins to install, no patches, no upgrades to mess with. Everything's just handled for you. Squarespace has award-winning customer service, and I've used it before. It was really helpful when I was setting up my Sliced Apple, and you can easily register a new domain with Squarespace or transfer one, and again, I've done both. If you're somebody who needs to launch and run an online store, you can do that with Squarespace too. There's tools for easy management of your products, orders, and inventory. I really do think you're gonna like Squarespace because I do. You can use the link down in the description to set up a free trial, and when you're ready to register and go live, you can use my discount for 10% off. To kind of wrap up my thoughts on this whole subject, let me say I'm excited for what Apple's doing with subscriptions. Not necessarily every aspect of it. I have been a little bit disappointed with Apple News right now, but I am excited for Apple Arcade, for instance. That sounds really cool. There's some exclusive games in there, and it's better if you do a lot of gaming to maybe pay that, whatever it's gonna be, maybe $10 a month, than to buy. You know, have you noticed gaming prices have been jumping? 99 cents, that's like years ago now, right? A good game can often cost like $6, $10, right? So we're paying a lot more. So maybe it's worth it to bundle this stuff, like Lori was saying. One thing to think about with these subscriptions, and Apple in particular, is that it's something that differentiates between being in the Apple ecosystem and the things that you can do versus being outside of it. So I kind of hit this in a different video, but Maybe Apple doesn't have a folding phone right now, but maybe you don't care because the folding phones aren't working great anyways right now. And maybe when it's working great, Apple will come out with it. But in the meantime, you can jump in and get this subscription for an Apple Arcade, and you've got games that you can play that nobody else can outside of that ecosystem. So on your phone, on your TV, on your Mac, it's everywhere. It's actually a convenience. It's that kind of scenario where a subscription can be a good thing. But again, you don't want to get subscription overload. You don't want it to hurt your wallet negatively. Well, that's it for this video. Subscriptions. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Really interested to see. Don't forget you can follow me. I'm at Daily Tech, spelled Daily, T-E-K-K, on Instagram and Twitter. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Later.